Hello and welcome to another Out of the House brief. We're back with former Secret Service agent Dan Bongino, who joins us now from South Florida. He has a new book out this week called Protecting the President. Dan, how you doing?
Doing good. Thanks for having me, John. Appreciate it.
So you said initially you weren't going to publish this book. What eventually made you finally pull the trigger on it?
Yeah, I had the book in my head forever, and I just thought to myself, let's just leave it, let bygones be bygones. I left on good terms. But remember this second White House fence jumping incident, not the first one, the guy who made it into the stateroom. The second incident, which we saw, about 6 months ago, where the man made it onto the South grounds. I said to myself, I know what happened. I have obviously a lot of good sources in the Secret Service, and I know what's going on. And I think the only way for the Secret Service management culture to change, John, is to put the ideas out there in a public forum, let the public read it, and let the public pressure force the Secret Service management to change.
So you talk about the Secret Service management culture. In your book, you say that everyone else really knows what the Secret Service does. It's to protect the president. But you implied that the Secret Service doesn't necessarily know that, or they've forgotten it. Can you explain that?
Yeah, this is not a problem with the agents. The rank and file men and women of the Secret Service are terrific. They're frankly the best people I've ever worked with. No disrespect to my CR team. I love you guys. You're all wonderful. But in the law enforcement arena, they were the best. Now, you may say to yourself, well, where's the disconnect? If in the book you're saying there's systemic problems in the Secret Service, and then on the other hand, you're saying, but the men and women are really terrific, what gives? Well, what gives is the management. And it's not every manager. I'm certainly not trying to stigmatize every single person that's been promoted in the Secret Service. But it's a culture here of we should do whatever people ask us to do, even if we can't do it. And I tell the longitudinal story in the Secret Service from my time there behind the scenes of missions they took on, John, that they had absolutely no expertise to do whatsoever. And those missions were not protection. And they distracted from the core mission, which was protection. And when you read how it happened in the behind the scenes, you wonder, frankly, how they're getting the job done now as effectively as they are. For all the problems, the president, thank God, neither Obama, Bush, or Trump has had a hair on their head harm, luckily. But that's not going to last forever if they don't change soon.
So, Dan, is President Trump safe?
It's a safe's a relative term. Obviously, when someone comes to your house and installs a security system, John, they don't say, hey, I'm guaranteeing you 100% safety and security. You know what they tell you? They say, hey, listen, we've mitigated some risk. And if there was a 50% chance of you getting robbed, now it's maybe a 20% chance. I would say the Secret Service does a really good job of keeping the probability of President Trump getting hurt really low. So not to give wishy-washy answers, is he safe? Relatively. Could he be safer is the critical question. And the answer is an unequivocal absolutely. And that's the problem. It's the management holding the men and women back through a bunch of really bad decisions that have all kind of coalesced and solidified into jello all at once.
Sure. Now, there have been some stories going around that the Secret Service is going to run out of money in September and they can't pay all their agents. Is there merit to this? And is that Trump's fault?
Yes and no. Yes, they are going to run out of money to pay their agents. And no, it's not Trump's fault because, John, they've run out of money to pay their agents for the last 20 years. This is not a new problem. This is fake news at its worst. It's not fake news in that the Secret Service runs out of money. Let me just explain to you quickly what the problem is. The Secret Service is one of the few federal agencies where agents work actual overtime. Most other federal agencies, including the Secret Service, get a thing called LEAP, Law Enforcement Availability Pay, meaning you get a salary, John, in the Secret Service as an agent, plus 25% extra, which covers your overtime. That takes care of the overwhelming majority of the federal agents in the federal government because they rarely will work 25% more in overtime hours, except for the Secret Service, which due to protection, the United Nations, where all these foreign digs come into town, foreign dignitaries, what happens? These guys wind up working substantially more than 25% more hours overtime, and they never get paid for it. So what happens? They run out of money. They run out of money because they can't pay agents the hours they work anymore, and guys and women leave. It's not that they don't have a sense of love for the job. It's just, John, if you could make $150,000 a year working for the Secret Service, working 90 hours a week, and $160,000 a year working for the FBI, working 40 hours a week. Most of these guys have wives and kids, and after 8 and 10 years, they're like, hey, I'm done. I'm just going to transfer out. So yes, they run out of money, but they've run out of money forever. If this story, I just another quickie here is, if this story was a Trump thing, then the Secret Service wouldn't owe me money. Do you know how many hours I worked that I didn't get paid for in the Secret Service? So it's just fake news. Trump had nothing to do with it. It's a payment problem. It's not a Trump problem.
Sure. Now, last question, Dan, on this. What's your favorite Secret Service memory?
Well, I have a ton of them, but I'll say when we were in Afghanistan with President Obama, we went to go visit over there, and President Obama wanted to pin on some Purple Hearts at Bagram Air Base, and we were there. I mean, the trip was amazing. I was the lead advance, so I coordinated the entire trip, and it was incredible because I got to work with our military, who were, frankly, the best of us. I mean, the men and women over there in Bagram were just amazing. I mean, they had a really deep impact on my soul. That still to this day lasts with me, seeing their sense of service. And, I remember this special forces operator who was going to get a Purple Heart. And, he had this 1,000-mile stare in his eye. And this guy's sense of mission and duty was just incredible. It was like he was walking into like the most dangerous situations in his story. And all he cared about was getting the mission done. They were amazing. But the best feeling on that trip was when we got out of there and we managed to pull it off. I remember because they didn't want to turn on the runway lights at Bagram because we were there in Air Force One. And what they were afraid of was that you would get some impact from indirect fire, like mortar type fire, that might hit Air Force One if they turned the runway lights on. So they took off and they put the lights on quickly. But then the backup plane, which is the same thing as Air Force One, there's two planes, that was the one I was on. And the long story short is the plane was delayed and taken off because we couldn't find this one guy. And we were all getting worried, including the military people, like, guys, we can't keep these lights on forever. This plane has to go now. And sure enough, guy pulls up in a SUV. He somehow got lost on the base. I'm like, he's telling me the story. I'm like, dude, just go, get on the, I don't care. Just get on the plane. And they boogied that plane down the runway so fast. I've never seen an airliner take off. I think the thing went vertical. And it was just a great feeling to get that. Yeah, it was amazing. It was just amazing to get out of there, get home safely. And it just goes to show you, our military men and women, they don't get to go home. They stayed. Sure. And I never forgot that.
Now, I know I said last question, but one more thing, because I remember on Obama's last day in office, you did a Facebook Live, and we all expected you to just tear into Obama after that. And if I remember correctly, you were kind of sad that he was leaving office. You liked the guy, but it's easy for us conservatives to say, oh, the Secret Service went to crap under Obama and it's all Obama's fault. But in your book, you say that's not necessarily the case.
No, it's not. And I want to be crystal clear on this. I'm not in the business of lying to our CR audience to get clicks or views or downloads. That's not what we do. You want that? Go to some other places. They'll do sensationalism for you. I disagree with Barack Obama vehemently on just about every political issue of the day. You name it, I probably have an alternative stance. Not probably, I do. But he was never rude or obnoxious or mean to me, and neither was his family. And saying otherwise, one, makes me a liar and discredits us in our movement. One of the complaints I've always had about liberals, John, is they let their emotions get in the way of what should be political arguments. Trump's evil, Trump's a Nazi. Let's leave that for the liberals. That's not what we do. We disagree on policy stuff. Now, there are some things he did, his ideology I disagree with, but yeah, you develop a loyalty to these presidents regardless of party. And you remember them as human beings, not just as politicians. And obviously, I was happy Trump won. I mean, ecstatic. But yeah, it is kind of it's strange given how many vehement political disagreements I had with him. But it is sure. In some sense, it's bittersweet.
And
I know
you have
that
to separate the person from the policy.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, you can't. You just have to understand, because I know I'll get some emails on this, and that's okay. I understand, but you have to understand, as we're the United States government. This is not a banana republic. We elect people, and we elect people, and people can make bad decisions, like Obama did, and we voted him and his people, out. I mean, Hillary Clinton would have been his logical successor, and we said no. But you can't do that in the Secret Service. We do our damage at the voting booth, John. We don't do our damage. We don't engage in political assassinations like third world republics. This is the United States. We're bigger than that.
Thanks so much, Dan. That's Dan Bongino, everyone. His new book, it's called Protecting the President, and it is out this week. And that's today's brief. Remember, you can follow me on Twitter at MillerStream. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.